Okay, so today we're going to continue with parabolas, and we're going to do just like we did with our other day 2 lessons, where we're given the information and we're going to work backwards to come up with the equation. So I have a vertex at 5, -1, and I have a vertex at, and a focus at 3, -1. Here's my vertex, and here's my focus. I'm always going to start by plotting my information. Okay, what can we conclude about which way this parabola opens?
Horizontal.
It is horizontal, and it's going to have to open to the left. We know it has to open to the left because the focus has to be on the inside of your parabola. Okay, so if it's a horizontal parabola, we're going to use our equation from our formula chart for horizontal parabolas. Y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h. So the piece of information that we're missing right now is the 4p. So we need to use our picture and our information to come up with what our p value is. What is p going to be in this situation? 2. Now, the tricky part is that because this opens to the left, what do you know that p has to be?
Negative.
Yeah, p is going to have to be negative. Okay? Anytime you open left or down, your p value is going to be negative. All right, so now we have our vertex, which is h and k, and we have our p value, which is -2. So we're ready to fill in our equation. So I'm going to have y minus -1, which gives me y plus 1 squared, equals, what's 4p going to be? -8 times x minus 5. Questions about that one? Okay, let's try again. This parabola has a vertex at 3, 2. It passes through the point 1, 4. And it is a horizontal parabola. All right, so I've got a vertex at 3, 2 and a point at 1, 4. Now, luckily they told me this was horizontal because just based on these 2 points, I wouldn't know if it was horizontal or vertical. Because I could create a parabola that opens up that also goes through that point, right?
By having that it passes through 1, 4, could you do 5, 4, 2? Like mirror it?
Well, this parabola is horizontal. So it's
so
going to
it'd be-
go like this.
Should be
Okay. So this is horizontal, meaning we know our goal equation. Our goal equation is y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h. We know our vertex. We know that our vertex is hk. But we don't know what p is yet. One thing that you need to know is you cannot assume that this point is on the focal width or the focal chord. Okay? You can't assume that this point is on the focal chord unless it tells you. That point is an endpoint of the focal chord. It doesn't tell you that, you can't assume it. Okay? So, instead, we need to use this 1, 4 in a different way. What do you think we could use it for?
mirror it.
Okay, I'm not sure how much help that would give us, but if we did want a mirror point, this is up 2, so it'd be at 2, 0. So it would really look more like that.
You can't use the negative here.
You can't here. No, that's not going to help us. Very good. We're going to plug in 1 and 4 for x and y. So then we'll have something to plug in for x, y, and k, and h, and all we'll be left to solve for is p. Okay? So I'm going to plug in 4 for y minus 2 for k is equal to 4p times 1 minus 3. Everyone okay with what I did there? Plugged in my vertex for hk and my point for x and y. So now can we simplify and solve for 4p?
Yeah.
Yeah. So 4 minus 2 is 2. If I square that, I get 4. So 4 is equal to 4p times negative 2. Now I have two choices here. I can solve for p and then find 4p, or I could solve for 4p right here. We're going to end up using 4p in our equation. So I'm going to just divide both sides by negative 2. And I'm going to find out that 4p is equal to negative 2. Now, could you go all the way and solve for p and then multiply it by 4? Sure.
Would p be negative 1/2?
P, yes, would be negative 1/2. All right, so I've got my vertex and I've got what 4p is. So let's write our equation. Y minus 2 squared is equal to 4p is negative 2 times x minus 3. Questions on that one?
So x minus 3 isn't squared on this equation. It's just
All right, try number 3, get it set up and talk with a neighbor and see how far you can get. I would draw out your picture, start drawing some conclusions, see what you can come up with.
So that's like y equals 4, so all these points are y equals 4. It's like 1, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 6, 4, and etc., etc., etc.
That's why I made videos.
See now, it's under the way it goes, like there it is there, so then to go away from it, so it's obviously horizontal, vertical, up, up,
Try and first figure out which direction this is going to open, and then figure out what else you need to create your equation. All right, I have a focus at 3/8. My directrix is the line y equals 4. Which way is this parabola going to open? Vertically, and more specifically,
up.
up. How do we know?
Because it's not going against the directrix.
Okay. Yeah, so the vertex has to be in line with your focus along the axis of symmetry. And remember that the axis of symmetry is always perpendicular to your directrix. So my axis of symmetry has to be vertical, which means my parabola is vertical. How am I going to find my vertex? It's got to be in between. So what's my vertex going to be? 3, 6. All right, so this opens up. So that's x minus h squared equals 4p times y minus k. So what information do I still need? I need p. What's p going to be? 2. The distance from my vertex to my focus is 2. So I know my vertex, and I know my p-value, so I'm ready to write my equation. All right. X minus 3 squared is equal to 8 times y minus 6. Questions on that one? All right, let's try one more. I have a focal width of 2 units. You have a focus at 0, 0. And the parabola opens to the right. Now, another way you could be told this same information is you could be told that the parabola is horizontal and that your p-value is greater than 0. So be prepared to see it given to you either direction. Or sorry, either way. See it as opens right or see it as horizontal with a p-value bigger than 0. Okay, remind me what the focal width is. It's not p.
That's the distance to the size of the parabola.
Yeah, the focus is the width of the parabola through the focus. So it's the width at the focus of the parabola. It's equivalent to what?
4p.
4p. 2 is going to be equal to 4p. So yes, that tells us then that p has to be equal to 1/2. Okay? All right, let's see what we got. We've got a focus at 0, 0. And we know our parabola opens to the right, which means this must be my axis of symmetry, and my parabola has to look something like that. Do you agree? All right, so I've got to find my vertex. What am I going to use to find my vertex? Your p-value, good. Because the vertex is a p units away from the focus. So this is 1/2, which puts my vertex where? -1/2, comma, 0. So here's your vertex. Here's 4p. So can we write our equation? Yeah. It's horizontal, so this is going to be y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h. Let's plug in. What are we going to have? Yeah, y minus 0, which is just y. So y squared equals 2 times x plus 1/2. Questions on that one? Okay, I'm going to pass out your homework quickly, and I want you to make 2 changes, and then we're going to work one of the problems together.
The quiz is hyperbolas and
Parabolas.
no, I will not do it.
Okay, so when you get your homework, flip to the back, please. And on numbers 8 and 9, please change that A value to P. So that number 8 says that P is greater than 0, and number 9 says that P is less than 0. So numbers 8 and 9, where you see A, please change that to P. Okay? Now, if you will please flip to number 2, I would like to work that one with you. So this is number 2 from 5.8 homework, the homework I just passed out. All right, so a couple hints that I want to give you as you move forward with this homework. The first thing you want to remember is that this is an equation. You can do normal things that you would do with an equation, such as rearrange things, move things from one side to the other, multiply the whole thing by something, divide the whole thing by something, okay? My personal opinion in this case is to get my negative 3y squared positive. So I'm going to decide to group my y's on the left and everything else on the right. So I'm going to go ahead and write this as 3y squared plus 12y is equal to negative x minus 5. Okay, before I complete the square, what do I have to remember? Yeah, you have to pull out the 3. You cannot complete the square if there's a coefficient other than 1 to your squared term. So I'm going to have this be 3 times y squared plus 4y and now I'm ready to complete my square. So I'm going to take my b value, which is 4. I'm going to half it, and I'm going to get 2. Box it, square it, and I get 4. I'm going to write it in as positive 4. And then I have to counteract it. How am I going to counteract it? Plus 12. Whatever you do on one side, you got to do to the other. Okay, so how am I going to write this? Don't forget the 3. Good. 3 times y plus 2 squared equals negative x plus 7. Okay, on completing the square problems, it's always really important to make sure that you know what your goal is. You have to have an end in mind so you know where you're headed. So my goal, this is obviously a horizontal parabola because my y is being squared. So my goal is y minus k squared equals 4p times x minus h. Okay, so I know I'm going to have to deal with this 3 and I'm going to have to deal with this negative. So I'm going to kind of give you a strategy for how to go about this. The first thing I would do is pull out any coefficient that you have of x. Here I have a coefficient of negative 1 that I have to pull out. So I'm going to write this as 3 times y plus 2 squared is equal to the opposite, or negative 1, times x minus 7. Okay? Then I'm going to deal with the 3. The way I can deal with the 3 is I can think of dividing everything by 3, or I can think of multiplying everything by 1/3. Multiply the left by 1/3, and I'm going to multiply the right by 1/3. So these cancel, so I get y plus 2 squared is equal to, now is there any point in me distributing this? No, because I'm trying to get a coefficient in front here, right? So I'm going to do negative 1 times 1/3, which gives me negative 1/3 times x minus 7. So here's your equation in standard form. Okay? Now, before you keep going, let's talk about your p-value. How would I find my p-value here? 4p is equal to negative 1/3. Good. Divide by 4, or think about multiplying by 1/4. So P is negative 1/12. You cannot shy away from the fractions. There are fractions on these top 4 problems strategically to make you practice with them. Do not just decide that because you see a fraction, you're going to stop. Okay? Get your common denominator and work your way through. Okay? You probably have time to go ahead and finish this one and then maybe start on another one. Glance at number 3 real quick and just tell me what a good first step might be. Multiply by 2 to get rid of that 1/2 in front of your y squared. Okay? All right, go for it.